Ladies and gentlemen, grab your tea and get ready for Tea Talk, where the topics are real, relevant, and relaxing. It's Tea Talk time, and here's Lady O.
Thanks, Tracy. Welcome, guests. We're so glad to have you today. It's a wonderful, beautiful day outside as I am here in my sunroom enjoying this weather. It's Labor Day tomorrow, so the weather is about to change. And I can even tell the difference out here. Even though it's warm, it's very cool, not nearly as hot as it was a couple of weeks ago. So we better enjoy this. I've got on my little sleeveless dress and enjoying all the fun things that come along with summer, but it's about to change. So we're going to be needing a lot of hot tea, right? So grab your teas, and it's time for Tea Talk at 3 with Lady O. I'm just so happy to have you. Why don't you go ahead and share with someone, let somebody know we're on. We have a wonderful subject today and some wonderful guests. It's going to be so much fun, so much information. Might even be a little sad, may even be a little mad. All of those emotions are going to come out probably with this particular subject. So I want you to go ahead and tell. It's going to be talking. I have two guests on here who have gone through divorces, and they are living on the other side of divorce as a fully satisfied, happy, forgiving, moved on woman. And but you know what? It was not easy. Okay, they may tell you I look good now, but if you could have seen me when it all happened. So if anybody's ever been through a divorce, or you may be going through a divorce, or you know somebody, then you need to get them on, because we're going to tell them how to do it God's way, and then how to get through. I mean, divorce is something that's just really devastating. I mean, it's no nice way to say it or put it, but it's rough. So we want to let you know we've got two women here who have made it. They're happy and fulfilled, and they're going to share with you how they made it, help you get through. And that's what we ladies do. We help each other, right? So I want to just say a couple of shout outs. Hello, Sister Deborah Baxter. See you. Looking good. Looking good. Thank you very much. And one of the people said it was not pretty, and I know it was not. So Sister Ball, I see you. Safay, I see you on here. And who else is on the line already? I want y'all sharing. We need to get this up, because you know what? Even though you may not have gone through a divorce, you've got children that may be going through a divorce. You want to keep them out of divorce. So there's a lot of information that goes on, not just for you, but being in a church setting, you'll have young ladies that may be going through, or maybe keeping them from going through, or helping them get beyond it. We need each other, right? So there is life after divorce, Tisha says, and there is life. But when you're going through it, when it first happens to you, you just probably feel like life is over, and it's kind of like a death. It is a death. It's like you can't see it. People can tell you, and the best people to tell you is somebody who's actually gone through it and walked through it. But anyway, so I wanted to tell you that, and then while we're letting some more people get signed on, while you're sharing, I want to give you a little heads up about some topics that are coming up, and you don't want to miss them. So set your calendars and make sure that you are tuning in at 3, because we've got some wonderful topics coming up. And so, team, why don't y'all come on and let's talk about what kind of relationships or things or topics are going to be coming up for Tea Talk from now to December, kind of throughout it. We've talked about a lot of them. What's going to be the one you're thinking about?
Mental health.
Mental health. We got one coming up about mental health. Yes, Lord.
Children. Mental health with children and teens.
With children and teens. So that's a different one, because a lot of times we don't talk about the fact that we have children who have mental illness. How do we deal with that? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Sister Deborah.
Well, I was going to say the same thing, was the mental health when it comes to children and them dealing with the anxiety, but also talking about the different kinds of teas.
Okay. Oh, yes. That's going to be one of my favorite ones coming up, because we have a lady who has her own company, And she's going to be talking about all the different teas and what they are and what they make, how they make you feel and help you. So you definitely want to tune in for that one about the different kinds of teas. She has her own company. And I'm going to share with you, my daughter-in-law, Sherelle gave me a gift for her because she knows I like teas. And she gave me the whole little set from the strainer to the teas. And so I'm going to share all of that with you, and she'll share with you how you can get them. With holidays coming up, there are cute gifts you can get. So don't miss that one. All right, Tracy, what you looking for? Which one are you looking at, you think? You're muted.
I'm looking forward to the mental health for adults, because we have to take care of the kids. And if we're not right, it has a direct impact on our children. So just looking forward to hearing what we can do as adults to keep us together.
Okay, very good.
So that's going to be good.
All right, we got to keep ourselves together. We're going to keep everybody else together. Can't have the mamas and the women in the house losing it, because you know they say when mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy.
Nobody happy, right?
And when mama lose her mind, everybody gonna suffer, right? So
That's
we
right.
keep the dog.
Yeah.
So we definitely need to take ourselves and keep ourselves together. Tisha, what about you?
First Lady Sarita West will be having a women's conference coming up, so I'm looking forward to talking to her about that.
Oh yeah, she's coming up next week. We're going to be sharing about her women's conference, and she's going to tell us all about it. We need to get our calendars and get ourselves over there, because I hear she's going to have some great topics. And
we can support you while you're speaking at her conference.
yes, and I'm going to be speaking there too on Friday. So we'll be talking about all of that. And she's a beautiful, wonderful first lady that I really adore. So we're going to be honored to have her next Sunday. So don't miss that one. All right. Let's see. Which one am I looking forward to? You know what I'm looking forward to? I'm looking forward to the one that talks about relationships, broken relationships.
Yes.
Okay. The one that talks about, how your best friends or the people who were your friends that kicked you to the curb, or you kicked them to the curb, or you had a disagreement. I'm looking forward to those, because I've been having some situations going on here lately. It's hard being friends with people. It's hard. So
it's draining.
It's draining, and it can be stressful. But we need friends. And that's one question I never asked my mother about, because she made it look so easy. But my mother had friends from when she was really, 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 as far as I could remember young, that they were her friends. And when she died, those were the people that were around her bedside. They had come to give us a break, and they were visiting with her. And with her friends, she went ahead and checked out of here with her friends. So that's very important. So I think we need to be able to keep friends. One of the things that I'm going to try to do too, and I might have that on the show. I was thinking about the other day about the people who were in my wedding, my maid of honors and things like that. And Pastor and I got to be celebrating 50 years in a couple of years. 2 years, I think it is. Yeah. And so I was thinking, I said, I should have them all together to come on and talk about that. I thought that would be good. So we may do that.
That would be fun. That would be
great.
great.
Yeah. So one of the things that with the friendships is, if you don't show yourself friendly and keep up with people, then you lose your friends. And so a couple of them reached out to me, when they all turned 60 and so forth. So we kind of got back together, and I was like, they're all still living, they're healthy. And it's like we picked up like we were from, the time when, even though some of them hadn't seen each other in 30 years. Isn't that awful? But I moved around a lot. So anyway, those are some of the shows we're going to be having. And also, we're definitely going to be having on, since we have a political campaign coming up here for the school district, we're definitely going to have our candidates come on and introduce themselves and talk about what it is they're going to do if they win, and what they need us to do to help. So we're going to be having some political things going on here. And when I say political, it's really not Democrat, Republican, that kind of political, even though some people are making it out like that in this race. It's just about children, loving children. It's not about Democrat and Republican, but some people are making it out like that for this election, which is making it a little bit difficult, a little bit dirty. And so with people throwing mud, slinging and things like that. And we're not going to do that. We're just going to talk about, what can you do for my children? That's all I want to know when I'm in the district. I don't care what religion you are. I just want to know what can you do for my children to make sure they're successful. Treat my children good and we're okay. But all this other political stuff, I do not want it in my classroom. I do not want that person that's focused on that. So we're going to have something to do with the campaign. We'll have them come on and let them answer questions for you. We'll have some rallies and things like that. So we'll kind of keep you informed about what's going on. The election is November 2nd. Keep that on your calendar, that we will need you to start making sure if you're not registered to vote, get registered to vote. And then go ahead and get started, because we need everybody early voting and everybody working the polls to make sure that we get everybody's the information out there for people to vote. Okay. Well, okay, enough for the announcements. Let's now get on to the show, because my mother and Pastor's mothers too, he doesn't like me to say it, but it's just the truth. We grew up in divorced homes. Our parents were divorced. My mother was married 4 times, and I think his mother was married 4 times too, even though he says 3. And I tried to tell him, I said, 3 or 4, what's the difference? Several times too. So don't try to talk about my mother. You know how we would get into those trials sometimes, those little tit-tat things. Your mother was married 4 times. Well, my mother was only married 3 times. Okay. Well, anyway, so I got a chance to see a lot of the negative things about family life and stepfathers and abusing, being abusive to the mother and stepchildren. I got to see some really bad things. So I was really always very sad when I heard the word divorce. And I said to myself, Lord, when I get to be married, I want to stay married forever. I'm thinking about the Cinderella thing. And so when you get married, you kind of think it's going to be forever, right? And the truth is, it's not always forever. So we need to, Deborah's trying to get back in. Let's see, I don't know what. So she's coming in. She says she's coming. So we'll just talk a few more minutes while she gets in. Her computer knocked her out, internet or something. But, you just try to wonder, how many of you all grew up on the Cinderella stories and things like that? Let me see in the chat. And how many of you believed that your Prince Charming was going to come, sweep you off your feet, marry you? He was going to be the best thing in the world, and there were never going to be any problems. All you had to do is be a good wife, cook, and be nice to him and so forth, and you would live happily ever after. Anybody else? Can I put in the chat? Anybody have a happily ever after thought that when you got married, that's what would happen to you? Well, that's what I thought too. And so with my mother, I saw it so many times that it didn't happen. It was a very big fear of mine. Honestly, it was a very big. I wanted my kids to have the same father, because we all had different fathers, and it was difficult. So, but just because, we'll talk about that to another time, but just because you do stay married to that same man forever does not mean you can have a perfect family or perfect kids. But it does help it when you do have 2 parents in the home, to be easier. 2 are better than 1, right? Okay, so I think she's back. Shelly's back. Yay, got her back in. Okay, so without further ado, I want to introduce you to these 2 ladies. I'm just really just astonished at how well they have done with getting their marriages, because they had some rough marriage situations. It was rough, so I'll let them tell you about it. So I'm going to introduce to you Shelly and Deborah, Shelly Jones and Deborah Frederick, and they're going to lead us from there. You have any questions, put them in the chat rooms, any comments, put them in the chat rooms, and we'll get them to them, okay?
Okay, so my name is Shelly Jones. I'm glad to talk about this subject today. Divorce, like Lady O just said, is such a devastating event in life.
Yes.
And it does feel like a death. And we all know the difference is it is a death, but the person is still here.
Yes.
So it's very difficult to, see the person and no longer have that relationship. And sometimes I still, one day, not too long ago, I was at the store and I was just putting groceries in my trunk. And I was just thinking, I just had the thought, man, I wish I had not had to get a divorce.
Yeah.
So I still have the thought, but then, God always brings me back to reality that, yes, that happened. but yes, you can move on, and yes, you can still be blessed. So, again, divorce is a devastating event in life. It is a cessation of a relationship that was supposed to last a lifetime. Like Lady O said, it was supposed to be the Cinderella story, and you live happily ever after. But not so for everyone. So the thing is, the question I want that we are going to address today is, how can you recover and still live a happy, fulfilled, and healthy life? It can happen. It definitely can happen. So, one thing that I want to talk about first is the process to peace. The
Yes.
first thing is to admit that the relationship is over. If it's over,
Yes.
it's over.
Yeah.
No, don't
Yes.
ruminate. Don't
Yeah.
ruminate on it. Oh, I wish this hadn't happened. I wish, like that day, I had that thought. I didn't ruminate. It was a thought, and thank God I quickly got rid of that thought.
Mm-hmm.
Then the second thing is to have a support system,
Yes.
and that's very important. We did have, before the pandemic, we used to have divorce care at our church,
Can you
and that
speak a little
divorce,
bit louder, Sister Shelley? I'm having a little
yes.
hard time. I hear Sister Deborah very loud and clear, but I don't hear you.
Okay, let me adjust this. Okay, is that better?
Yeah, it's a little better. Uh-huh.
A little better. Okay. So we used to have divorce care at church, and that helped me significantly. That was a major benefit to me. So it's very important to have a support system. And
Mhm.
then the last thing is that we really want to focus on today is forgiveness.
Oh, wow.
Your spouse uh has
Wow. Let's
hurt
stop
you.
for a minute there. Let's stop for a minute because I want to make sure we got that. Okay. So the first
Okay.
thing, you got to admit that this really happened.
Yes.
Move beyond the hope that it didn't
Yes.
happen or it may get back together. So that's number one.
Yes.
And that's kind of a reality check. And
Yes.
then number two, and I wanted to just make sure people knew that divorce care is a national organization, right?
Yes. It is.
So
It's a national organization.
it's offered all over. You just have to Google divorce care, something like that.com or something like that.
It's .org, divorcecare.org.
And you can find churches or communities near you that you can go to, and you don't have to be a member of the church or a member of the group. You just find the one that's closest to you and go.
And go.
And
Yes.
I like that too, because, if it were me, I probably wouldn't want to go to the one in my church. I don't know. I might be embarrassed, or it might be, I guess it depends on when it just happened and if he's still there. So this way you can go to one where you don't know anybody.
Yes.
Nobody knows you. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And
Now talk about this forgiveness. Was that forgiveness one is going to be a booger?
yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Shelley.
forgiveness is the act of setting someone free from an obligation to
Yes.
us that is a result of a wrong done to us.
Yes.
So you have to release them and let it go. Now, that's not easy, and that's what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Deborah?
see, Shelley, I was thinking about that when you were talking about how hard that was for me, because I thought about, I prayed for 8 years for a husband, and this was my knight in shining armor.
Come on.
And my knight in shining armor put the dagger in my heart.
Ooh.
So, it was like, forgive him.
Mm.
How do I forgive him for devastating my life? Because that's just what happened. That
Yes.
picture that I had to live this life with this knight in shining armor has now been just destroyed.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so I know that God did this. He orchestrated putting together this person in my life that I didn't know anything about. But this person gave me this book from Charles Stanley, The Gift of Forgiveness.
Okay.
And man, I read that book, and that book let me know that if I refuse to forgive the debt of the offender, then I'm the real loser.
Mm.
Yes.
Because unforgiveness by its very nature prevents us from following through on the things that God has for us.
That's right. That's right.
And
Yeah.
so I knew that if I continued in the unforgiveness, then I am walking by flesh and not by the spirit.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's a process. I
Yes.
wrote a book about forgiveness too. And I definitely want you guys to get that. It's called A Day with My Father. And when I looked at A Day with My Father, I was meaning it was about my biological father who abandoned us and devastated our lives.
Yes.
But it was really about when you grow up, spending a day with your Heavenly Father. And the last thing that Jesus did on the cross was to forgive. And he commands us to do that as well. And it's a process. And so in my book, I also talk about the process. It doesn't happen overnight.
No.
So what I want you guys to do, I want y'all to take us there. Okay. Tell us about that. We want to feel what you feel, because it sounded like you all didn't really have that bad. It was just, they made you feel bad. But okay. Okay. Talk to us about it. And how long did it take you to get to where you really wanted them to live again? Okay.
Oh, yeah. I can tell you that it really was not pretty. I put that comment, it wasn't pretty. Because at the same time that I went through the divorce, I was mentally not good.
Yeah.
Because this was this man that I prayed for, as I said earlier, and I just knew that this was going to be till death do us part. And now you allowed another human being to come between us and devastate our family. And there were days when I was in the house, I lost my job, or I got laid off in the midst of all of this. But I know that God did that so that I could heal, because while I still had the job, I was going to work, I was driving to work, I worked hospice. Okay, so I was dealing with death on both sides.
Wow.
And so I would be in my car and I would be boohooing and crying and falling apart. Get to a client's house, and then good morning, how are you? And good afternoon. What I took care of them and get back in the car and fall apart
again. Yeah.
Again, and then when I got late, I would be in my living room. I can sometimes just look at the door near my garage and just remember me stretched out on the floor, screaming and hollering and just crying and saying, God, I don't understand. And asking God to stop the world and let me get off.
Yes.
I've had enough, Even so much as I love my daughter, I was saying, God, you will provide somebody to take care of her, because I've had enough of this.
And I'm glad you shared that, because we talk about mental illness, and when you go through a divorce, you can become emotionally out of order, just lose it. It's just a meltdown. It's a mental and emotional meltdown that's natural, that kind of goes along with the way sometimes when somebody dies real close to you, you just can never recover. So I wanted you to thank you for sharing and being transparent, because people need to know that is a normal thing. You just don't say, okay, I'm going to forgive him, I'm going to pray for him. No. When you go through a divorce, sometimes, and most of the times that I know of, when I talk to people, you fall apart.
Yes.
And especially when it's something like, when you have a betrayal, and usually it is with women. It's, he's got another woman, and then I wasn't good enough. All of these thoughts. Talk to us about that.
Yes, because you feel like I don't want them to win.
Right, exactly.
But so you just fight.
Right.
You continue to fight because you want to be the winner, you think.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I felt like, Lady O, I felt like I wanted to do something to harm both of them, both my husband and this.
Keep it real. Keep it real.
Yes.
Because I know I would. Y'all spouse would be missing.
Right.
Be saying, well, what happened to Pastor? I'll be saying, I don't know. I don't know what happened to it.
He's not here anymore.
Ask that other lady.
So I would drive I found out who she was. I would drive over there. I would sit outside, and I don't know what I was thinking I was going to do, but I wanted to see him show up.
Yeah.
Because I felt like I wanted to confront him right then and right there. And thank God I never saw him. Thank God I didn't.
Thank God.
Because I don't know what I would have done.
Yes.
You might have been in the jail by now.
Yes, might have been. So I'm thankful for that. But I was devastated as well, and I fell apart too. And like Deborah, I would go to work. I wasn't myself. I could tell when I looked in the mirror. I wasn't myself. And
Yeah.
it was very difficult. I felt like I was falling apart. I would just cry. I would even break things in my house.
Yeah.
I would just drop stuff and just break things.
Yeah.
So it was very devastating. My heart was broken into.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and one day I was driving. One of these days I think I had just gone to the store, and I was thinking of, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? What can I do to them? And God spoke to me, and it was audible. In my spirit, it was audible. And he said, "Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord.
Yes.
I will repay." And after that moment, that's when I decided to let it go.
Now, how many years? How far along was that? We're trying to give them a timeline.
I would say a year.
About a year.
About a year.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
How about you, Deborah? How long?
It took me about 2 years, but it really took me about 10 years to really be whole again.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, I was standing in church and I was teaching something, and I stood there and it was like, this is 2005. Look at me now, and I just went to shouting because God, he had kept me, and now I was whole again.
Yeah. Wow, that's good. So, and I wanted you to share the timelines, because a lot of times people say, "Oh, girl, you ought to be over by now. It's been 5 years," and it doesn't happen like that.
Right.
You have been together with this person. You've had children together, and so to tear apart, divorce is really a tearing apart.
Yes.
Everything in half.
Yes.
The heart, the children, the home, the money, the in-laws, the different vacations you used to have, or holidays, the church, everything has to be divided.
Yes.
And friendships, even friendships are
friendships. That's right.
You know,
choose.
Because I was the pastor's wife. So, I lost a lot of relationships.
Yes. Yeah. Yours was very public. When you're the pastor's wife, it becomes very public.
Yeah.
So that's another thing you have to deal with. And then the people who take sides, if they're on his side, it's like you feel betrayal by those people. How can you be with him after he did this to me?
Yes. Yes.
And, so I know yours was not as public, but you were in the church, and the church did know you and know him. And he had, I think, it stopped coming, so they didn't really. Most people didn't know him that well, but they knew you. And but when you're the pastor's wife, I think those are that's pretty serious.
And then it affects your children.
And that's what I was going to ask you. The next question: how did it affect? Because I know both of you have children. How did it affect your children? How do you handle the children? And I know some of you probably will say you didn't handle them exactly right, because when you're falling apart, you can't help anybody else. It's like, you know, so tell us about that. What was it like with the children how did you tell the children, or did they just find out, and how did you help the children?
Well, actually, my ex-husband told my daughter before he left. So, that it was his fault. So that was a good thing for me. But in the breaking, into little pieces, God sustained me enough to take care of her. So when she was around, I was good. I had a nice little facade together. I held it together. And when she went to bed at night, I'd go in the bathroom and fall apart.
Lord Jesus. Jesus.
Yeah.
Well, Shelly, what about your girls?
Well, my girls were not here. They had Carmen is here, but she wasn't in the home that much, and my other daughter's in California. So I think that my son was affected more than they were.
Yeah.
So he, I think, was very hurt, and he wouldn't talk to me. He wasn't that open with me, but he would be open with other people, like his first cousin. and then his first cousin would say thanks to his mother, and then his mother would tell me. So she said, well, Joshua said that that you all are getting a divorce and he wants y'all to stay together. So he would tell them, but he wouldn't tell me.
Yeah.
So I knew that he was very hurt, and we would just tell him, it's not your fault. It's not anything that you did. This is between, it's between us. It doesn't have anything to do with you. But I still think that he still kind of he harbors that, and he's a person that he stuffs his emotions. So he's not very verbal about what happened.
Well, when I was a counselor in the district for an elementary school, one of the classes, the groups that I had was called the Divorce Club. And this was a club where children could come in whose parents were divorced and talk about their feelings. And in my studying and getting my degree in counseling, I was shocked to find out that adult children take divorce harder than young children. It's like they can't get over it. So the older the child is, the more difficult it is for them to get over it. With the little kids, they really still don't quite understand. They don't like it, but they go to daddy's, and now we got ice cream and cake with this new lady who's really nice to us. And if you're nice to kids, they just kind of happy. They kind of forget it. Then when they go home to mama and she's sad and she's mad because you're liking this new lady, then you look at mama as the mean evil one, and now I think I want to stay with mama and this new lady. She's cute and she's nice. And she's nice. So how did you tell or deal with the other woman with the how did you,
I heard that, Deborah.
Oh, that was a hard one. That was hard. But the good thing in that is my daughter never, ever went with him and her. So, she stayed with me the whole time. But, when she would go to church there sometimes, the other woman would try to, be friends with her, give her things, and I had to,
bring them home and throw that in the trash. You ain't keeping that here.
That's exactly what happened.
I'm just keeping it real about what I would do. Don't bring that stuff in here.
Exactly. Yes, and she didn't understand at that time. She was 14, but she still didn't understand what was going on.
Right.
And it may have been easier for me had I not been faced with this woman every Sunday for a few years.
Yes.
Wow.
Before the divorce, so you knew what you were doing, and you put it in my face. So that's a little different.
Yeah. So she was at the church.
Yeah, she came and joined the church.
Oh Lord Jesus! Oh God! Let me get a drink right quick. Hold on a minute. Hold on. She was at the church. Let me have a drink.
Yeah, she wasn't a member there until the affair started.
And then she came and joined the church that you were at.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, I don't know, y'all. Okay. I'm gonna bow down to you. That's a bit much because that was, like you said, put it in your face. Okay. Yeah. Deborah Baxter said dead.
He kept me.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Tracy said, my parents divorced when I was adult, and it was still hard to accept. And I think, like, if me and Pastor were to get a divorce, I know my kids will be devastated.
Yes.
Because you're tearing apart their life and their future. Yes. Okay. She said, I meant God kept me. I know. And you know what? That was a song that when I was going through a difficult time in my marriage, I remember there were certain songs that I can remember.
Yes.
And one that I really remember, and I don't know if it wasn't at the really, really bad time, but there was at another time. And sometimes you have flashbacks. We're going to talk about that in a minute. I have these flashbacks. And this song that I almost let go.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
I felt like I just couldn't take life anymore.
Oh, yes.
that depression had me down.
Yes, that was
something
one.
was all around.
Yes.
But God held me.
Yes.
So I wouldn't let go.
Let
Because
go.
I wanted to just let go and just fall. Right?
Yes.
Yes.
I wanted to just die. And so you know, that song that God kept me, and I think that's the thing that, you know, that I want to talk about. What kept you? How did you start to heal yourself? Because God will do it, but you gotta be willing to step forward and say, God, I want to be healed. I don't want to be like this forever. Tell me about that episode. What was that like?
What?
Well,
for me, go ahead, Shelley.
Well, for me, it all started with the conversation in the car that God had with me when He said, "Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord, I will repay." And shortly after that was when divorce care came along.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the specific night that we talked about forgiveness, and I knew that was the area that I needed to work on. We talked about finances. We talked about what to do, you know, if your children have children and the other woman is around. We talked about all of that, but
that's in divorce care.
Divorce care, yes. But the night that we talked about forgiveness, I knew that that's what I needed to work on.
Okay.
And so once I started with my ex-husband first, because I feel like, and I don't know if this, I just feel like women that have affairs with men in married relationships, I think that women have a lot of control over men. And I think that if she had been the type of person that said, well, you know, you're married, I don't want you to leave your family, then he would have been less inclined to keep that relationship going. That's just in my mind. So I felt it was easier for me to forgive him than her. So I started the process of forgiving him first. And what God showed me, especially from Dr. Stanley's book, but also from the divorce care, is that we are not judges. That God is the only righteous judge. So we cannot put ourselves in the seat of being a judge over people. And because that's not our place.
Right.
And so that's when, in the divorce care, was when I started to heal. And I was very happy that I joined the class. I didn't want to at first.
Yeah.
Because
but you need to. Yeah, you need to do that. And that's one of the things you said. You know, once you realize that, you typically cannot do it by yourself. Okay. Right. I mean, you're just in an emotional place where you're all over the place. You just can't do it. You need some help. And you will begin to heal faster if you get help. I will say that. So, you know, when you were just talking, I want to talk about this for a minute, because this comes up a lot when we do counseling and when I, you know, talk to women who have husbands who have committed adultery. And we are going to talk about that case in particular at another time, so I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it, but we are going to cover it. But I do want to say this, and I want to get your input on this. Okay. I think that you cannot blame the woman. Now, let me tell you why you can't. Because men are hunters. They hunt for what they want. Yes. And they pursue what they want.
What they want. Yes.
Okay. Yes. Even if a woman throws herself on them, if it's just for sex, they will take the sex and go to what they want to hunt.
Right.
Now, a lot of things in that, like Tisha said, the man took the vows, not the woman.
Yes.
That's right. That is
he took the vows. He knows you. The woman doesn't know you. He's telling her what he wants her. She doesn't even know you.
Wants her to hear. Exactly.
But he does. And also, I look at it like, you know, this is the mother of your children that you are doing this. Now, sometimes, so I don't blame the woman. I think you're right that a lot of women know what they're doing. Yes. And they prey on men's weakness, which is sex. And then once they get the sex in there, then they start to control some other things too.
Right.
Because let's just face it, when you're married and you got you working and you got kids and you got cooking and cleaning and all this stuff, you can't do all the things that she can do the way she does. And when all she has to do is just have sex and look sexy or whatever, you know, go out on dates or whatever.
Yes, yes.
you don't get to do that. So it's kind of an unfair thing that he is playing, because I always say it's the little boy in him that wants to play. Because real life, real grown men don't do that. If they're mature in their relationship with God, they don't do that. But a lot of times it's something in their past that's happened with their parents, with their father, with some uncle or whatever. They have seen that this is the way you do life. It's okay to do this. And even sometimes in the church, and then like I said with you, Deborah, with it being in the church, growing up, and I want to get y'all's comments on this because I'm just talking, but when I was growing up in church, that was one of the reasons why I didn't want to be a pastor's wife, because all the pastors I knew had mistresses in the church.
Wow. Oh my God.
Yeah. The ones that I knew growing up, I had one that when I was about 11, he had a baby in the church by a woman on the Ursha board. Oh so, you know, he may have grown up in a church thinking that it's okay. That's the way my pastor did it, whatever. This is all I know. So until they know better and grow up and mature, they don't know better, but still the blame is on them, because the Bible says that they're the head of the household and they are responsible. They took the vows.
That's right.
You know, that you didn't force them with a shotgun to say, you got to marry me. They chose you and they said, I want to commit my life to you. But then they backed out. So they came to the candy store, said, I want to get this piece of gum and here's my 10 cents. And they chewed it a little while and said, I don't want it.
Right.
Here, you can have that gum back. And it's not something that kids do. It's not like a toy or whatever. This is a real human being that you're playing with. So I both of them are to blame. Yes. But the biggest blame I put on the husband. Y'all tell me what do y'all think? Is it the man's fault or the woman's fault? Go ahead, Deborah.
I agree that it's his fault, because he is the one that told me and before God that it would be until death do us part. When I blame the woman is when she comes knowing that you're his wife.
Yes.
And flaunt it in your face, you know, and do certain things. Now you got some blame. Now you're not to blame for the marriage falling apart, but you are to blame for this foolishness.
Yes. Now I agree with you on that one, because I had to snatch her up. Y'all been having to hold me back. It wouldn't have been no Holy Spirit either.
Well, that's why I ended up leaving church. Yeah. Because I was at that point.
Yeah.
That had I gone one more Sunday, it was gonna be on.
Yeah,
it would be on. It was gonna be on.
Thank God you left. That's the lady thing to do, guys. Yeah. You know, to leave, because if he this is why I blame him also. He should have snatched her butt out of the church. Don't you come up in my church?
Exactly.
I'm still married. My family's here. Yeah. My church is here.
Exactly.
You know, he should have been man enough to keep her out of there, but he didn't. He allowed it. So therefore, I go back to blaming him.
Yes.
Because anytime you let her call me, you do what? You let that go on.
Yes.
He need to snatch her up, you know, and stop it. And he didn't stop it. So
yes.
I just commend you on that one. You did the right thing, guys. Let me just tell y'all. This is what it's very emotional, very hurtful. So you will do things that you will regret if you don't leave. So get yourself. If he is doing foolishness, you remove yourself. Don't let him come to your house. Don't let him put you in a situation where you're going to end up losing it, laying hands on that person, and you end up in jail.
Right. Okay? Exactly.
Don't cut the ties. Don't go over there and cutting all his clothes up. You're going to go to jail, okay? And she's going to be really happy then.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the truth. But
okay,
thank God.
Other questions? Go ahead and so go ahead. Tell me about when did you finally see that you were on the way out? You were on the way into healing, and you knew you were there. How many years was it? And tell me what that was like.
It was 2 years that I knew I was on my way, but God put a person in my life that, like I said, that gave me the book and also gave me a song that I listened to all the time. But the most important part was the gift of forgiveness, because I'm not a reader. I don't love to read, but that book, I couldn't put that book down.
Wow.
And as soon as I finished the book, I felt forgiveness. And I picked up the phone and I called him with tears in my eyes and said, I forgive you. And I felt so free.
Yeah.
Oh my
It was
God.
a weight lifted.
Yes.
Now, how many years was that? How many years?
That was 2 years.
That was 2 years when you telling you forgave, but you still have the tears in your eyes. You're still hurting. Okay.
Yes. But those tears were because I was free now.
You were free.
I wasn't over here thinking about how I wanted to get back at him anymore.
Yeah.
You know, it was over now.
Now, did he stay with that woman?
Yeah, but they didn't get married. And
they
didn't get married, and we became friends. Actually became friends. So
who, you and him or you and her?
Me and him. Oh yeah, no.
Okay. I was gonna say,
No.
You were fake.
I'm not so good.
Okay.
No. But he and
I'm good.
Until the day he passed, we were really we were good friends, you know.
And tell us about that real quick, because I don't want to forget that part, because I want to get to the end where you do live happy ever after, but it's just in the story has a different kind of happily ever after. So I would say that forgiveness and being free is your happily ever after. It's not just being married to the guy. So okay, so y'all became friends, you talked, you never married the woman, and then he got sick.
Then he got sick quite a few years later. He got sick and he passed away in 2015.
Okay. How many years was that after the divorce?
We divorced in 1999. So this is 22. So
15. Okay.
Yeah. So
wow. That was great. Okay, Shelly, tell us about yours. So when did you first realize, okay, I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna forgive this guy. That's the beginning of the process, but there's a long part of that whole thing. And when were you ultimately okay?
I would say 3 years for me. I felt like after 2, I was in a mode where I was beginning to heal and beginning to be more myself. But then I found out that he was going to marry the person. And then I was back at square one.
I know, that's right.
I was like, the nerve of this. I mean, the nerve of him. Yeah. So then it took me another year. So that's why I say after 3 years. After 3 years, I forgave him, and he even had the good sense to tell me that he apologized for what he did, and he said that he was apologized that he was not the husband that he promised me that he would be, and that helped me a lot. That he was being honest.
Yes.
So that helped me, but I would say 3 years for me.
Okay.
3
but
years.
Did he marry her?
Yes, he did.
Okay, now that's another story. Okay, so Sister Deborah, he didn't marry, so you didn't have to deal with that, whatever, in-laws at Christmas time, whatever, he didn't marry her. But when the man marries a woman, now she is a new daughter-in-law at the Thanksgiving dinner, or the relative in that seat where you used to go for Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever. So what was that like? Well,
I've never met her.
Okay.
So and she's not coming to my house. We're not friends. And that's another part about forgiveness. Forgiveness doesn't mean that the other person didn't hurt you. It just means that you are not trying to hold them accountable.
Right.
That you're not judging them. But it doesn't mean that you have to be friends with them and hi, come over anytime. No.
No, ma'am.
No,
ma'am.
No. So I have not met her personally. My children have. And they don't see, my son seems to be, they don't really have a relationship, but he has been over there. He does visit. But my daughters, they don't.
Right.
They don't.
And that's by their choosing to not go, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's what I used to tell my parents, the kids who are divorced, don't force them into a relationship with the new wife or the new husband, because that's their father or mother, and let it evolve, but don't force it. And when you're, I'll tell y'all something funny. I told my kids, me and your daddy ever get a divorce, y'all better not invite her to Thanksgiving, and you better not have her. It is not gonna be nice when I walk in the house, and I'm coming to Thanksgiving. I'm gonna. So we laugh and joke about that, but it's not really a joke if we were to ever have had to do it, because one of the worst things about divorce to me is when you have your family gatherings. Even let's say you have a funeral, and you knew that person when y'all were married and was friends with them or relatives or whatever. Now she knows them. So you're at the funeral together, you're at the weddings together because that's her daughter, or your daughter and his daughter. So, he's hugged up with her and you're walking in alone. That just cannot be a happy thing. And I have known some people to say that they would not allow the new wife to come to the wedding. Well, I get it. I think it's a process. I think you shouldn't do that, but I understand it. Especially if you got a woman like what Deborah had. I've been tripped her down the aisle. With that kind of attitude, at least she can be nice about it. Don't put it in my face.
Well, it's good that he didn't marry her. It's good he didn't marry her because she didn't come to the wedding.
Okay, good. It's too much. There's too much confusion having them all together in the same place. I know we had a couple when we first moved over here on the Beltway. We had a couple who was married, and they ended up getting a divorce. And he told her to leave because he wasn't leaving his church, and she told him to leave. She wasn't leaving her church. So we told her, we said, "You sit on that side. You sit on this side." And then he started dating somebody else in the church. As a matter of fact, he dated a couple of ladies, and we had to finally ask him to go because you can't go through the ladies at the church. Your wife is still here, your kids are still here, and I don't get it. But you do have to ask, who's gonna get the church? Who's gonna get the Thanksgiving? Who's gonna get Christmas? And so it's just too much confusion. So it's better to go for counseling so you don't have to go to the divorce. So let me ask you about what time are we at? See, I get to talking here, and we got a few minutes. Let me let you all close, because I was going to ask you about anything that you would have to say to anybody, maybe to keep them from getting a divorce. Is it just inevitable? Is there something you just would there be any advice that you could give a woman for? Because I know you'd have those things. I wish I would have. Maybe I could have. Have you had those thoughts, or maybe?
Yes, I would say communication is the most important thing.
Yeah.
To always keep talking, even if you're hurt, angry. It's important to share how you really feel about whatever the situation is, and not bottle those emotions. I think that's very important.
Yeah, communication. And if you're having a hard time doing it, get counseling, outside counseling, to help you walk through the communication. Because sometimes, I don't know about you guys, but sometimes when you're trying to communicate, if you're upset, you just can't get past. You're still fussing and saying things to so Deborah, actually, all right, Sister Deborah, advice from you. What do you think? What do you want to say?
Well, the advice that I would give, and like you said, when you're angry, you really can't do what I'm about to say.
Right.
But is to be the wife that God has called you to be, in spite of whatever's going on, so that when you have to walk away, if it ends, you can walk away with a what I'm trying to say, like free. You can walk away free, knowing clear conscience. That's what that you can do that. And when you're angry, it's really hard to be truthful. And then if you have to divorce, I would say, when you are praying and asking God to help you, ask God to help you be content with yourself. Because once you're content with yourself, it's like I said, God, if you choose for me not to never, ever have another man in my life, just make me content with me. And I'm content with myself.
Right. And I think that's a really good note to leave on, that it was not your fault. A lot of times Satan wants to say, well, you weren't enough. You weren't beautiful enough. You weren't fine enough, you weren't sexy enough, you didn't do it this way, whatever, she did it this. And so I think that a lot of times we can turn on ourselves and say, if you had only, but really truly it wasn't that, it wasn't your fault. It's all about the person who chose to step out instead of communicate and step up.
Yes.
You need to step up and say if you're needing this or if you're wanting this. If you like her, she's got all her nails always done. Send your wife to the nail salon. Send your wife to the hair. You know, invest in her rather than to step out, step up. Okay, so we got this prayer of forgiveness. That was who did this one? Deborah, is that yours? Or?
Well, now this is a prayer.
Shelly, go ahead. Lead us in the prayer of forgiveness, and we're gonna cut off. Okay.
Okay. This is a prayer from Dr. Stanley's book, The Gift of Forgiveness. And it just says, Lord, I forgive, and you name the person, and then you name very specifically everything that this person, you feel that this person has done to you, and then just say, and it doesn't have to be word for word as this prayer states, but you take authority over the enemy, and in Jesus' name, you talk about how the power of the Holy Spirit is going to give you back the ground that the devil has stolen from you.
Yes.
And give, and then after that, then he will give that ground back to you. And y'all know that scripture in Isaiah 61:3 that says God will give you beauty for ashes.
Yes.
Yes. And that's what he does. And that's what he does. But we have to forgive. So the forgiveness is the piece for me that really set me free. Is letting both of them go and realize that it's not for me. It's not for me to judge them. I can't do it. It's not my place.
Right.
So, yes.
Very good. Thank you all so much. And I'll just close with that. Oh, these are the resources they're going to leave up and put in the chat room to get some of these resources, and also get my book. I didn't put it in there, but that's a good book on forgiveness of family, friends, church people, siblings. I mean, I had to forgive so many different people that I said my middle name was Forgiveness. It was Evelyn Forgiveness Ogletree. Because I was having to forgive everybody, people in the church, everything. So it talks about the steps on how to forgive, and forgiveness works for everybody, whoever's you need to forgive. And unforgiveness is like a cancer. Okay, it will kill you emotionally, mentally, even physically in your body. It will kill you. So why do you want to keep killing yourself with having that unforgiveness? You let the forgiveness go. Let the person go. Because here's the thing. This is like the person. You want to be free, but you're holding on to this cell phone. You're just squeezing them. You won't let them go, right? Now, how can I get the new life that God's wants for me if I'm still holding on to this? You have to literally let this go. Let it go. Peel your fingers off of it. It's not yours. This battle is the Lord. So let that go. Then you can reach out for the things that God has for you. So being angry with him, being unforgiving is not something that you're giving to him. It's a gift you give to yourself so that you can live the abundant life and live happily ever after. God has it for you. You can have it. You just have to what? Let it go and let God. Listen, it's been great, but it's time to get out of here. It's been wonderful. I'll see you next Sunday at 3 for Tea with Lady O.